Hello, hello, and welcome to our video on changing your major to global studies. So this video is a really great resource if you either couldn't get an advising appointment on the schedule that you needed it, or you just kind of wanted to figure out some things about changing your major before setting up an appointment with one of our advisors to go through some specifics. This kind of just gives you the overview of what to do, what to think about, where to get started, and where to go if you need some more help as you're thinking about your major change. For simple major changes, just from one major to another, as well as double major, if you think you wanted to take on global studies as a second major or an additional major to your existing major or majors. So this will kind of walk you through those steps. And then just as I was saying, if after looking through this presentation, whether you're watching it on the video on our YouTube channel, or if you're clicking through the slides, if you realize that you have some additional questions or want to discuss some specifics, clarifying the requirements, especially the foreign language, that can be really a tricky section of our major requirements. We definitely recommend contacting our undergraduate advising office. We do have some contact information here on our website that'll take you to our appointment calendars, our drop-in advising hours, and a few other ways to contact us. So let's go ahead and dive in. If you are watching this as a YouTube video, just something really good to know is that you can get a link to these slides so that you can click all of these links, and you're going to see a bunch of different links and resources. You can get a closer look at them by downloading the Google Slides from the description box in the video down below. So just kind of be ready to grab that if you think you want to click on any links in this presentation. So first of all, we'll give kind of the big overview of the steps, and then we'll break them down. What do you actually do to start a major change with global studies, to declare pre-global studies or add it as a second major? We do recommend that everybody downloads and reads through the major requirements and a suggested plan of study for the major. We'll go into what that is in a moment. We want you to run your major and GE progress check on Gold to sort of self-check where you're at with the major requirements, particularly the pre-major and prep for the major requirements. And maybe get a peek at some upper division courses you've taken if you are at that stage in your time at UCSB, and how they might help you towards completing the global studies major. We also want you to read through some important things to know about progressing through the major and graduating on time. So this is a major that we have carefully designed to allow students to graduate on time, but we don't necessarily guarantee that students can graduate early. So this will just be a few things we'll go through to remind you of that. We'll also read through some special tips that the major requirement sheet doesn't really clearly convey on its own, just so that way you can be totally clear on what those requirements are asking of you and kind of how to plan. And then there's some paperwork that you'll fill out. This is kind of the actual steps you'll take to indicate that you're ready to change your major. For simple major changes, or you're just declaring the pre-major, switching from one major to pre-global studies, there's going to be a linked Google form on our undergraduate advising page on our website. It'll be in the section entitled Joining the Major. It will guide you through some questions about the major and let us know that you'd like us to start an electronic change of major process. I'll give you kind of a visual of what that looks like. So it'll look a little bit similar to this. The photo may be slightly updated, but it'll guide you through some information, and it'll also give you some other things to think about as you do that. For people who are thinking about double majors, you're actually not going to use this form, because this form is not designed to handle people who are thinking about doing global studies as a second major. But instead, you're going to do something a little bit different. You're going to send an email to our advising office that's here with a completed change of major petition form. You can Google this UCSB change of major petition form and download a copy and fill it out. Or you can, again, download the slides from our YouTube description box and get the link that way. You're also going to have something called a memo of understanding for the double major. Now, we're not going to go into this right now, but we'll do a quick tutorial for you all the way at the end of the main presentation here in this video. But we will touch on kind of what that is and how to get started on it towards the end of the presentation. So hang tight. For applying to the full major from the pre-major, if you're already in the pre-global studies and you're shifting into the full global studies major, you're also not going to use any of these, this form up here, this Google form. There's a different Google form you're going to see. There is an info sheet that will be linked in this presentation that you can kind of take a look at, or you can visit our website and you'll find the form on the joining the major page. It'll just be a different Google form. So indicating to us that you're already done with the pre-major and you need to be placed on the full major when it's an appropriate time for you to do so. If after you follow all the steps that we kind of went through here in this video, you want to discuss specifics, we are definitely welcome you to make an appointment. If you are looking at a double major, that's one where we really would like to see you make an appointment as opposed to just a drop-in, unless it really is just a very quick question. But appointments are a great move so that we can discuss specifics with you. If it is a quick question, you can see about attending drop-ins using the schedule posted on our website under undergraduate advising. So a very quick look at the major requirements and suggested plan of study. You are going to notice that the date on this is a little bit out of date. That's okay. It should give you most of what you need. There is one difference down here in the upper division major, but whatever major copy you're looking at later on, after watching this video further down the future, we'll have the updated upper division numbers and classes listed on it. So we do recommend that you do that. On our website, underneath joining the major, you'll find these documents. Page 1 in the PDF is the current major sheet, and then page 2 is a kind of a grid that tells you what classes are appearing in the like the suggested time frame for what we would like you to be looking at and when in the major, and how to know that you're kind of on track versus ahead versus maybe a little bit behind, and you might want to catch up using, you know, more classes per quarter or looking at things in summer sessions, perhaps. We also have this posted on the registration resources section of our website. We also have available for you a document that we call the Global Studies course planning tool. It'll look like this. It's got a bunch of bubbles. It's 2 pages, 1 page back to back. And it'll actually give you some physical bubbles if you're the type of person where you like to print something out or maybe fill it in digitally, up to you. But actually have something where you can physically like see everything laid out and check things off as you fill them out or as you take the classes that complete those areas. Really quick glance at this, the numbers on this one are a little bit out of date, but again, you'll find the correct one when you go to our website. Now there's no need to submit this. You don't have to turn this in when you're declaring the pre-major. It's just something that's there for your reference and so that you can get a handle on what classes you need to complete and when and in what order. For the pre-global studies major, all students start in the pre-global studies major, they complete their pre-major requirements, and then they apply to the full major. Please note, you only have to complete the pre-major requirements before you can apply to the full major. You do not have to complete the prep for the major, including the foreign language requirement, before you apply to the full major. You just have to get it done before you graduate. Pre-major requirements are found at the top of the major sheet. Students apply to the full major during the quarter in which they are finishing pre-major courses. And then the idea is we hold on to your name at the end of that quarter. We check your final grades when final grades come out, and then we process your change of major at that point. We do actually have a full video about the pre-major to full major process if you wanted to visit that on our YouTube video, and some information about it on our website. There is an info sheet for the pre-major, more details about all of that on the undergraduate advising section of our website. And just keep in mind, admission into the full major is not guaranteed. You want to keep an eye out for other majors that might interest you, just in case, maybe from your GEs, things that you've enjoyed, other electives that you're taking, things along those lines. So then we are going to invite you, if you haven't done so already while you're watching this video, you could even pause it and do it while I'm talking you through this process. We invite every new student into the major to open and run their own major and GE progress check on Gold, so that way you get a sense of what classes you've already taken that give you credit towards the major and what areas you would need to start with next. This is also a really great move as you get started on your next schedule planning, right? Your next enrollment on Gold for whichever quarter is coming up next, so you know exactly what classes to look out for and add to your schedule. So just in case you don't know how to do this, you're gonna go to Gold, click on the Progress tab in the top sort of center of the screen, go to Major in GE Progress Check, and then if it's not currently your major for Global Studies, pre-Global Studies, you're going to use the drop-down menu to select pre-Global Studies. And you can also use there's a button I'll show you in a second on the next screen that tells you tells the system to include classes you're already enrolled in or have planned for the future. So yeah, as a potential pre-global studies major, you can see how many pre-major and prep for the major courses or requirements you finished, but something to keep in mind is the system won't show you your upper division major requirements until you're already in the full major, which is a little annoying, I think. But what you can do is scroll all the way down to the all credit accepted section of your progress check. That'll give you every class that you've taken or gotten credit for transfer work, and you can kind of cross-check that with the major sheet to see what you might have already taken that also counts for upper division major credit. Again, you don't need to report this information anywhere unless you're filling out the memo of understanding for a double major. That's where knowing this information becomes a little bit more vital to actually fill out a piece of paper as part of the paperwork. But just doing this helps you be informed, and it helps you answer the question of like, okay, I'm going to change my major, but what does that mean? What classes do I need to start signing up for? That's what this helps you with. So how do you find and read your progress check on Gold? Just in case you need a reminder if this is not something you're used to doing or you didn't know that this existed, very, very important key piece of information for doing well here at UCSB is you're always going to want to be checking this about every quarter. It's also good to check it at the end of every quarter just to see how your final grades looked and how they kind of put those different classes into different major, men, GE, and elective requirement areas, just so you can kind of see what's left and what you have to work on next. To get there, like I said, you click on progress once you're logged into Gold and then click major and GE progress checks. You're going to choose global studies. For you, it'll be pre-global studies if you're not in the major yet. But whatever major is here is typically whatever current major you are. So you will need to change that or verify that it is pre or full global studies, whichever is applicable to you. Then you're going to want to check this little box to use in progress courses. This is nice because it then includes anything you've signed up for in the future, so you can verify how those classes are helping you towards completing the major. Then you're going to click run this progress check. Key areas we want you to check as part of this check as you're getting ready to declare them pre-major would be units left completed and left to complete, especially upper division units. It's okay if these numbers are very big right now and they don't mean a lot to you, especially if you're a freshman or a sophomore. Particularly freshmen. It's just good to know what they are and where to find them later. We also would like you to check on how your GEs are getting completed, what areas you maybe need to work on there. That's a great resource if you're looking for more classes to add as you're working on your change of major. And then you can look at some pre-major, prep for the major, maybe upper division major requirements areas if they're displaying to you currently. I did not need to open that. I don't know why that did, but I think maybe there's a link here. Anyways, all credit accepted shows all classes that you've taken. So if you do need to look at everything for the upper division major that you can't see yet, you can go all the way down to see those courses and cross-check them on the major sheet. So I kind of gave you the photo version on the right side, and then here's the words version on the left. But I'm going to go ahead and click through. Just good thing to know is green check marks next to any of these requirements, like this one, for example, means you've done it. It's complete. A clock means you're currently enrolled in something or in a future quarter that will be completing that area. Red X's mean this is something you still have to complete. Something's missing, something's not done yet. If you do have any questions about what these major requirements are showing, especially that foreign language requirement under preparation for the major, great thing to book an appointment with us for. We will include a little bit of information as we continue on into this presentation, but if after watching that and visiting our foreign language section, you still have questions, really great thing to reach out for because it can be confusing and very personalized. So we're happy to look at it with you. Please also feel free to check out our foreign language requirement FAQ, frequently asked questions video on our YouTube channel. You can search for UCSB Global Studies, or there's a link right here that gives you more specifics on the language requirement. So a question a lot of students ask as they're getting ready to join the major is, can Global Studies take some courses they've already taken by petition or by special request, so that way the classes they've taken maybe for a different major would be able to be used for Global Studies? In a lot of cases, yeah, we need to see some specifics about the course. You may even be surprised to see courses from other majors that count already on our major sheet. So definitely look at the major sheet first, look at the progress check first. We also recommend visiting our undergraduate advising page, has a petition section that has a sheet with criteria for what we can take by petition for the major. What are special circumstances, or what class descriptions would work for special spots in our major requirements, so that way maybe you don't have to take as many classes after joining this major. Just be aware that they won't show up in your progress check until you've officially petitioned them. So just keep that in mind. But more information on that on the petitions page on our website. Common areas in which we can take courses by petition. You'll notice mostly it's the upper division major section. It won't be the prep for the major, the pre-major. Sometimes the prep for the major and the foreign language requirement, we can be flexible, especially with study abroad courses, but we can go into that more in depth if you make an appointment with us. Common areas in which we do take courses by petition, area 3, the region courses. Lots of exciting new courses that fit in this area that we just can't put on the major sheet because we only get a chance to update it once a year with the college. You're looking for things that are 20th and 21st century timeframe focused. World War II and later is a good general rule of thumb, but it's okay if it's a little older, like all the way back to 1900. And something related to a social, cultural, political, historical topic within that region or a country in that region. This is also applicable for UC-EAP study abroad courses too. Other places we take courses by petition would be area 2B, the global topics courses. These are a little trickier to find, but still possible. Still same focus on 20th and 21st century history, and at least, social, cultural, political, historical topics. The difference here is that it has to focus on at least 3 or more regions of the world in the same course. So it's like you're comparing some kind of issue across multiple areas of the world. Another question that we get is thinking about progressing through the major and graduating on time. That's something a lot of students worry about. Generally, we would say as long as you're starting the pre-major, finishing the pre-major, we would say by like the middle of your junior year, end of your junior year at the very latest, you will be able to finish the major on time. And by on time, we just mean within the 4 regular years that most students plan to be here at UCSB. You could look at summer sessions too as options if you wanted to get a little bit faster or catch up if you feel like you're behind a little bit. But a few things that we like to put out there. The major sometimes gets very impacted. This has been the case in a lot of recent years. There's just a lot of students this is a really popular major for. And there's no guarantee that you'll be able to access any specific class in a specific quarter. We do try to structure our classes so that everyone gets what they need eventually. Just know that you may not get your ideal choices for every single quarter, but you will get access to the courses that you need during your time at UCSB. You just will have to maybe be flexible on when you take them. For the above reason, we can guarantee an on-time graduation within 4 years, as long as you're progressing through the major at a full-time student pace and you're using your registration passes wisely. So not waiting until the last minute when everything else is full to try to get into major classes, not signing up for one class and then giving up and waiting until everything else is full and then begging for approval codes. Believe it or not, people do it. One thing we do have to say is we can't guarantee an early graduation. A lot of students get into this major and they try to go very quickly through their pre-major classes and get into the full major before they're totally ready for it so that they can graduate early, but that is not something that we can accommodate. So if you're looking for a major where you can get a guaranteed option to graduate earlier, I don't know if global studies is going to be necessarily the right major for you, but for some people it does work out that way. Just don't make it like a requirement of joining this major because we can't guarantee that. We also can't guarantee an on-time graduation if you're joining the major after spring of your junior year. So if you are starting pre-major or you're working through the pre-major by the spring of your junior year and you're not very far along yet, particularly with that foreign language requirement, you are going to want to save at least part of a 5th year to be able to finish up. And you will also likely want to look at summer sessions as a chance to catch up on things. But students who start the major early definitely are able to work out a plan to graduate early in many cases. So don't want to say that you can't graduate early just so that we can't guarantee it. But if you start early, there's a good chance. Some special tips that the major requirement sheet doesn't always convey clearly on its own, but I just wanted to shout out here. In the pre-major section, global 1 and 2, a lot of people think you have to do 1, then 2. That's not true. You can do them both at the same time. You can do as long as they're offered in the same quarter, or you can complete 2 before 1. Totally up to you and just what works in your schedule. The thing about the history section, the history pre-major cluster where you pick 3 from a specific cluster, you likely won't be able to complete all 3 in the same quarter. So you're going to want to spread them out over at least 2, maybe 3 quarters. But one thing we will say is as soon as you see the 3 courses that you want to take, definitely plan to take them as soon as you see them come up in the schedule so that way you're not stuck waiting quarters and quarters potentially for the class to come up again on the schedule. So prioritize those when you're thinking about your major or pre-major courses in your schedule planning. Try to get those history classes out of the way as soon as you can. Prep for the major courses, things that you want to keep in mind. The global studies language requirement is tricky, but the big number you want to hear in your head constantly, and don't forget about this number, is it is 3 years if you're starting from stage 1 all the way through. And you can do those 3 years all in one language up through an advanced level, or you could do 2 years of one language through the intermediate level plus 1 additional year of a different language if you want to have 2 languages as part of your background as a global studies major. But it's not the kind of thing where you can just take 1 course, 2 courses necessarily and be done. There are shortcuts available depending on your background as a student and depending on your prior knowledge of different foreign languages, but you will still want to invest some significant time in understanding the language requirement so that you have time to finish it, whatever that looks like for you. Great thing for us to chat about in an appointment, but there is also a lot of information about some of these special situations and things to consider about the foreign language requirement on our website. You'll see a foreign language section underneath our undergrad advising page. We'll talk on that page more about using high school language credits, whether you completed high school here in the United States or abroad internationally. We'll talk about placement tests. We'll talk about some options for native speakers. I'll highlight just a couple of these that come up a lot on the next slide. But yes, great thing to reach out to us for an appointment or with more specific questions over email or in drop-ins. For my folks who are international students, it looks like that's coming later, so we'll put a pin in that one and come back. Another special tip that doesn't always come clear from the major requirements, just looking at them on the sheet. So we're talking about the upper division major now. Area 1 courses, these are our core upper division courses, also just like Global 1 and 2 can be completed in any order, but you do have to complete them after you finish the pre-major and are admitted into the full major. These can be kind of difficult or intense courses. They're not impossible. It's just that maybe you want to think carefully about putting more than 1 or 2 in the same quarter. There are 4 of them for most students going forward into the future. Used to be 3 prior to spring 2022 or summer and fall 2022. So ideally you spread them out a little bit. You can do 2. Some people even do all 3 or maybe possibly all 4 in the future. We might see that. But it's nice if you can spread them out over multiple quarters just for a little bit more balance in your schedule. In the upper division major, you need to finish the major beyond those 4 core courses, 5 courses total between areas 2 and 3, but you can split those courses in 2 different ways. Again, that split doesn't always come very clear in the major requirements. You'll see it in the progress check, but it's not always clear just looking at it. We have some details on the next slide. Now I'm saying 5 courses between areas 2 and 3. I do want to give the little asterisk here that for students who declared the full major in spring 2022 and before, this number is actually 6, because for those folks, they only had to complete Global 110, 120, and 130 as their core area 1 courses, not 140. 140 was added to the major sheet starting in the 2022 to 2023 academic year as a required course under area 1. So that shifted the number of area 2 and 3 classes down by 1 to make it so that you didn't have to complete an additional class, just that we changed the balance a little bit. So this is what that looks like on the course planning tool that you can download from our website on the joining the major or major requirements pages, if you like to see things kind of laid out in a little bubble diagram. So that's kind of what that looks like. Again, remember, people who declared the major starting in summer 2022 and beyond, this is what you're looking at. This is what you'll be following. For everybody who was a student prior to that, declaring the full major before or from spring 2022 and before is going to complete something that looks more like this, where you have a 4 and 6 or 4 and 2 split to get 6 classes total, or a 3 and 3 split to get 6 classes total, split between areas 2 and 3. Both of them, just keep in mind, all these situations, area 2A, you need to take at least 2 classes, at least 2. Okay. Some extra notes on the foreign language requirement. I did say we'd come back to this, particularly for our native and heritage speakers, so students who grew up speaking a different language with their families, and especially for international students who are fully fluent in another language. Some special shortcuts to the foreign language requirement might apply to you if any of the following is true. If you are a native speaker of another language, including international students and multilingual US students. If you studied at least 3 or more years of language in a high school, this is less being fluent and more just that you studied it, but there are some things to think about with that. If you have prior college transfer courses in a language, that might apply to you, especially if you're a transfer student. Or if you just have prior foreign knowledge of a foreign language, maybe you're eligible for a placement exam through the department that teaches that language. If any of this might apply to you, we do welcome you to visit our undergraduate advising pages foreign language page on our website. There, it kind of lays out the whole entire foreign language requirement and gives you some resources and some things to think about and some links to explore that might help you figure out a little bit more what's your strategy with completing the foreign language requirement, whether that's potentially getting fully cleared for it, using a placement test score, or using some other evidence that you speak another language, or getting part of it cleared, depending on your situation. Really, really, like I said, really great thing to make an appointment about too, because we can help you figure out what's the right move for you. We do have some information on the next slide about different language departments on campus and kind of how they do this. But it looks like maybe we actually left that off. So I will take that off the slide at some point in the future. But yes, visit our website. I'll give you a quick visual just to kind of show you what you're looking for. It'll be under undergraduate advising and then the foreign language requirement. And it'll take you all the way through some information, as you can see, quite a bit, and some links that will help you figure out what's the right move for you on the foreign language requirement. Other opportunities to customize your experience in the major. I mean, the foreign language requirement is definitely one of those, but as we had mentioned in an earlier slide, at each quarter, we search for classes that can be applied to the major by petition. There's a lot of new and really interesting courses that come out in other departments that work for our major requirements. But like we said earlier, we only get the chance to update our major sheet once annually. So this lets us honor new classes that would work for our major. Students can take them and request them by petition to be added to their major requirements for global studies. On the registration resources section of our website, there's a link to a Google Doc that will kind of, I keep a running list every quarter of classes that will work for this. So if you're looking for classes on Bold to enroll in for the next quarter, not a bad move to look at over at that website, that section of our website, to give you some ideas if you want more options. Also keep in mind that global studies gives you 36 upper division units. You need a 60 unit minimum, 60 upper division units minimum to be eligible to graduate. And depending on your situation as a student, 180 to 184 units overall. Remember, you can check all these numbers and how they work for you personally on your progress check on Gold. What this means for global studies majors is that they will have to complete at least 24 upper division units, elective units. These are considered above and beyond just basic stuff on the major sheet, although they can be extra classes on the major sheet. These courses can be anything upper division, or they can come from a minor or double major. So that's where a lot of people decide to spend those elective units on completing a minor or a second major, or they just take random classes that they're interested in. If you're studying abroad, this is a really, really common thing to do for our majors, except for during COVID, obviously, but we're seeing a lot of students interested in that again as we hopefully move away from COVID. Now, the most common areas on the major requirement sheet that students complete while abroad are the following: Area 3 upper division courses, Area 2B upper division courses, and portions of their foreign language requirement. Typically some portion of any of those 3 years, especially upper division courses taught in the language. If you're going on a program where you're going to be getting the opportunity to take classes taught in the language of that country, you can use those for our major as well. Really good option to discuss in an appointment if you'd like more information. In fact, as part of the study abroad application process, you actually have to do some pretty intensive research on what classes you think you might take, and you have to get a signature on a special form from your major advisor. So that's something that we can discuss at that point. We also recommend, if this is interesting to you, the idea of studying abroad, to start looking at the UCEAP website. That's going to give you program options. You can kind of start looking and seeing what might be interesting or attractive to you. Deadlines for summer, fall, and full year programs are typically around the prior, it says January through March. I would even say December through March, but it'll depend on the program. Deadlines for spring semester or quarter programs are typically around the prior April, May-ish. So just know that you're going to want to plan ahead if that is something that is interesting to you, as it is for a lot of our majors. Okay, time to recap. Again, these are the final steps that you'll follow now that we've given you an overview of the major change process. Here's the paperwork that you'll fill out when you think you're ready. You will fill out this Google form that's linked. It is on our undergraduate advising website page that is entitled Joining the Major. It'll guide you through your progress check and asking you some questions about the major. And it's the thing that signals to us that you're ready for us to send you an electronic copy of the change of major DocuSign petition to send you via your UCSB email. For double majors, remember you're going to have a slightly different process we will go into in more detail in just a few more moments, but you're going to be sending us an email to our Global Studies Advising Office with a completed change of major petition and a memo of understanding. Again, we'll go into this in a second. If you're applying to the full major, having already completed the pre-major, you're also not going to use this above linked form, but you're going to see a different form on this info sheet. You can get that info sheet in these linked slides, or you can get that by going to the joining the major page on our website. There will be a section that'll give you some pre-major information. Again, directions for completing the change of major petition and extra double major paperwork are on the next slides. If you did not want to do a double major, this is where the video pretty much ends for you, although you can certainly keep watching if you're interested, but that's pretty much all you needed. So you can click away and complete your change of major paperwork if you are ready to go for it. Double major folks, here we go. And then again, just if you have any questions, feel free to reach back out. And if you want to make an appointment or see about drop-in advising to ask any questions about this process now that you've seen kind of the big overview. Okay, double major folks, if you are thinking about a double major, like we've been referencing two pieces of paper that I think I have ready in my tabs in my browser that we'll reference. The memo of understanding for the double major, let me go ahead and get out of my slides, looks like this. And this is actually something that you'll fill out kind of first, and then you can kind of finish off with the change of major form. So it's a two-sided handout. We actually recommend that you read through the front side and then kind of fill out what you know, but then there's going to be some information at the bottom you don't know yet until you fill out the back side. The front side is essentially a contract between you and your understanding of the major requirements and the college, sort of indicating that, yes, you're okay taking on a large number of extra units in order to do a double major, and you're generally planning to graduate on whichever timeline you're planning to graduate on. So it gives you some things to be reminded about with the double major process. The most key one that comes up the most, I would say, to be aware of is that you can cross over some courses between two majors that, you know, if both of them are appearing on the major sheet or accepted by petition for that major. But just keep in mind, no more than 8 units of upper division coursework can be applied to both majors. Lower division coursework, usually you can apply as many courses as you need to across the two majors and across GEs. But for specifically upper division courses, only 8 units, usually that's 2 classes, might work out a little bit differently if you're taking EAP courses for study abroad. But you need to make sure as a double major that you're very carefully watching both majors requirements and taking enough to fulfill both majors without crossing over more than 2, usually 2, but 8 units of upper division classes. There's going to be this area down here where you have to fill out your potential graduation quarter and year. Most people put like whatever's the end of their 4th year. That is the thing that works out for most people, unless you have a specific reason not to. At which time I'll complete a total of however many units. You don't know this yet, so leave this blank. You'll sign it, you'll date it, and then there's just more information down here. On the second page is actually where you're going to sit down with your progress check for your current major, for the potential new major, global studies, and the other things that you see in your progress check, which for most people is their GE requirements, and sort of figure out where you stand, where you need to go next, how many units it's going to take you to finish both majors. So you'll kind of just work your way down. The couple things that you'll want to keep in mind as you fill out, this is your main current major, this will be your second major. For most people, this is where they'll put pre-global studies. We are a BA degree. You're going to look at the requirements, you're going to look at your progress check and the major sheet, and you're going to figure out how many units you have left to fulfill to complete the pre-major and prep for the major sections. Don't be surprised if this number ends up quite large because of the foreign language requirement. So the foreign language requirement is if you have a good handle on how many classes you'll need to take, and if you don't, great thing to talk about it with an appointment with us. That's how you can kind of figure out how many classes and therefore how many units you might still have left to complete. It's okay if you're overestimating too. Always better on this form to overestimate than underestimate, so that way you don't get surprised and have to take a bunch more units in order to finish. And then the units needed to fulfill remaining requirements in the upper division major. If you haven't completed any upper division courses for the major yet, the number that you'll put there is 36, just, right out of the gate. You'll continue on and kind of check off here if you have fully completed that area of the general university and general education requirements. If you have not satisfied that full area, this is where you'll say how many units you still need. So if it says in your progress check that you need 2 courses in area F, for example, units needed, it's probably safe to say 8, right? Because most classes are 8 or 4 units here, with some exceptions. Once you get all of these numbers plugged in all the way down, you're going to do a little subtotal here of units still needed. And then this is going to ask you to start making a final total. So you'll take your total number of units you've already completed. And this is like fully completed, right? If you are in week 8 of a quarter filling out this form, you can kind of tentatively count the current classes you're in as completed. If it's week 2, then I would say by the time you turn this form in, you still won't be done with those classes. So don't count those. Then you'll say the total units still needed from the listing above. That's this number that transfers down here. Then you add A and B together. This is how many units tentatively you would need to complete the proposed double major, both majors plus your remaining GEs. It'll say you must complete a minimum of 180 or 184. That's definitely true. You very likely will find that this number hovers either around 200 or goes fairly significantly over 200 units. That is okay. Although there is kind of out there this floating magic number of UCSB needs you to be done by 200 units. As long as they see that you have a plan in place and you're on track and you're making good progress on completing those 2 majors within either 200 units or 4 regular academic years, plus maybe a little bit of a grace period into a 5th year, whichever of those comes later, they're going to be fine with it. If they're seeing that you're asking for a double major and it's going to take you like 300 units to finish for some reason, because you've already completed a bunch of units doing other majors, but never finishing anything, that's where they may have some questions for you in the college advising office. But otherwise, for most people, you're fine. And then you'll just reiterate here, which quarter and year do you generally plan on graduating? Most people put spring quarter of whatever would be the end of their 4th year, but you could adjust that if that feels like that's going to be different for your situation. And then you can transfer those same numbers and graduation quarters over here if you didn't already do so. That's the memo of understanding form. If you feel like you have questions on like the first major, feel free to make an appointment with your current major if you need to kind of clarify any of that. But if you do have questions about the global studies major unit numbers, definitely reach out to us and we can help walk you through it. But we always like to see you try it first on your own so that you can kind of take ownership of what you're seeing in your progress check. But then we're happy to help you cross-check it. Back over here on the change of major petition, this is a PDF file. You can download it and fill it out on your computer, or you can print it, fill it out by hand, scan it back in to a clean screenshot or a PDF to attach to an email. And basic information here, you'll fill out name, expected graduation quarter, your signature, the date, and then you'll say your current major you're changing from, whatever your current major is, to current major plus, in our case, pre-global studies. Catalog years, whichever year you're currently declaring this pre-major in our case. So you want to put the 2-part year, right? Not just like right now I'm doing this video, it's July 2022. I wouldn't want to just put 2022. I would want to put 2022 to 2023 if that's the academic year that I'm in. And that is kind of what indicates what version of the major we put you on. So you want to make sure that that is accurate to your situation. Then for signatures, if you're already in your first major and you're only adding global as a second major, you only need global studies advisor signatures at this stage. You don't need your current major to sign you off as well. If you're adding both majors as new majors at the same time, you are going to need a signature for both. And you're going to want to reach out to the advisors in both departments to kind of see how best they would like you to do that. For example, our department, we do it by email, but other departments might do it a little bit differently. Just is up to them. After we sign off, whoever of the 2 majors last holds the paperwork from you and signs off on it, we'll typically send it along to the College of Letters and Science advising email for them to sign off on it, because they want to have extra approvals if you're adding a new major after this amount of units, or usually the other option is if you're adding a second major, if you're double majoring, they want to see that and just make sure that your plan makes sense. And then, yeah, we send that along, that they give it their once over, and then they will forward it on to the office of the registrar, just like a simple major change would do. And then your major will change at that point once the registrar processes it. So we'll go ahead and go back into our slides over here. The same directions are here listed in text form, but I kind of just walked you through it on the screen. Good thing to keep in mind is it can take several weeks for your major to change on gold. So just be patient, keep checking on gold periodically for the following 2 to 6 weeks. If your major does not change in time for you to sign up for global studies courses and pass one, plan to work on other major requirements or other GEs, other elective options. We have a planning your schedule video on our YouTube channel that can also be really helpful with this if you need to wait to get into major classes. And do feel free to get on wait lists for gold for global studies courses. Just know that they are prioritized by major and unit status. So a senior in the major will always have higher priority on the list than a sophomore who's not in the major yet. But just know you will have time later on if you need to take those same classes in a future quarter. I think that takes us to the end of our video. All done. Again, visit our website if you have any additional questions and resources on this. Feel free to check in with us too if you'd like some specifics about your situation. Thank you for watching.